Today I'm going to be showing you how I make single-ended faux locks. These are actually a little bit more backcombing involved than the small micro long faux locks that I make that are braid and wrap method that I have a tutorial on previously. So this is a little bit of a different method. I take a wig form and one of the wig needles. I actually have tape over the top of that needle if you didn't catch that. That's just to make sure that the hair on the loop doesn't actually get stuck inside of that little piece at the top of the needle. So anyway, go ahead and take a section of hair, and I'm making these kind of medium thick locks. They're not super small. You're going to then twist while you're holding in your left hand, twist with your right hand. Make a little loop around that needle, folding the right piece over the other piece. Then you're going to take out a tiny little section of hair, and you're going to tie kind of a slip knot around the entire lock, but make sure that you tie it tight up to the base. Then you're going to divide that little tiny piece of hair in half and do a square knot. So you're going to take one end and make kind of like a 4, feed it through, then take the left side instead of the right side of the piece and feed it through. So you make a square knot on top of a slip knot, and then you're going to go ahead and get your comb, and you're going to do back combing all the way down to the end. So as you do it, if your wig form kind of has some looseness to it in terms of catching that needle, you might need to push the needle back in a few times, or you can even just lay the head down and push it into it, or just push the needle into a piece of furniture that you maybe don't mind. So yeah, we get that you don't mind pushing it into. But anyways, whatever it takes. I sometimes have used even a safety pin as well, attached it to the couch, or you can use a nail in the wall. Lots of different options. But anyway, you're going to just secure that looped end, and then you're going to go ahead and back comb all the way down. Now, the reason why a nail or a pin or a safety pin works well is because you're going to want to take that little needle or nail out once you've gone all the way down. So this is actually showing you a few that I've already done. So that's how the little loop looks, and that's how they look all the way down. So you're going to want to take that needle out to move on to the next one. So I'm going to go ahead and show you from a little bit of a different angle. It is kind of hard to film this, so make sure you've got that secured with your left hand as you twist with the right hand again, and then you're kind of folding that one end over, taking out a tiny piece of hair that then you're feeding under and pulling through to make that slip knot of the hair right around that part to form the loop. Then you divide that hair in half and do a square knot on top of that slip knot, and that just secures the top part so that it's not too loose. Then you're going to go ahead and again get your comb and start back combing those hairs you want to with your left hand as you're back combing with your right hand. If you're right-handed, you want to go ahead and kind of loosely grip the hair. You don't want to grip too tight because you do want that back combing to catch a few hairs at a time, but you don't want it to catch too many. If it catches too many, it makes a big loop. Then go ahead and kind of pull that out, smooth it out a little bit, and just keep going. You can adjust the tension as you move down. Now you might want to, as I said, move that needle up onto the wig form a little bit higher, lay the wig form down, or get a different position if the needle keeps sliding out of the wig form as you're back combing, because the back combing does kind of take some tension and resistance against that needle or nail or whatever you're using to anchor the looped end part. So I'm using 2 different kinds of hair. I actually have one, they're actually both purchased on Amazon. One is kind of a feather tip hair, and it's an ombre from 4 to 613, and it has a 27 in the middle. Then I'm using another hair that's actually a 1B to 613, and it's kind of a more abrupt ombre. It just has kind of roots of 1B, and then it fades into 613. So I'm using both of those kind of half and half as I make these faux locks. The ones that I originally made for this client were all done with the 427 613 ombre, and they were a little bit shorter. She wanted a little bit longer this time and a little bit blonder. So a little longer, a little blonder means I am using a little bit more, half of this blonder, more quick ombre or abrupt ombre, and then half of the other, and it just gives a little more blonde color. And this second hair, the 1B to 613 hair, is actually a little bit longer as well. So accomplishing both purposes. Again, you're holding with your left hand as you twist with your right hand to make a nice firm tight loop around that needle. Then you're going to go ahead and section out that little small piece of hair to tie these knots, wrap it around, and you're gripping with your left hand, you're gripping that lock or the hair section as you're wrapping that around, pulling it up to tighten, and again divide that in half, and now you're going to do your square knot and tying from one end from the right side and then tying from the left side to secure it. And we're going to go ahead and start backcombing. And again, we're just going to backcomb all the way down to the end. Now when we get to the end, there's a little thin piece of hair that is left that kind of after you've backcombed everything, you're going to still be holding on to just a few random hairs. You can either trim those off or you can just leave them and wait to trim them off after you actually do the sealing method with the iron. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and move this up on the wig form a little bit higher, keep backcombing, and I'll show you in a second how that little end piece looks with the few hairs that are left, so that you can either just clip them off or just leave them there. And then when we seal these pretty soon here, we're going to go ahead and finish the ends that way anyway. So backcombing all the way. I love this ombre. It's really a 1B and 4 and 27 and then 613. So you can kind of see that it makes just a nice blend, a nice ombre. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the ironing part. You're going to want to have a wet towel that's wrung out. You're going to want to have a spray bottle as well nearby, just to make sure that it stays nice and wet, not just barely damp, but wet enough to, when you lay it over the lock, it should steam immediately and quickly with the iron, and not just kind of barely steam, but you want to really hear that steam jump up. So we're going to go ahead and take a lock that we have backcombed, and take your pin, the same pin that you had on your wig form, with that tape over the end just to keep the hair from sticking in there. Go ahead and put it through, and then you're going to want to latch it into or poke it into the towel and through your little ironing board cover, kind of like you are hooking a straight pin if you know about sewing. So that's kind of what it looks like, just hooked through the towel. And this is an ironing board, it's just a tabletop ironing board. So that's kind of what that configuration is. And I have my iron turned all the way up to linen, so the hottest it will go. Then you're going to want to go ahead and start twisting. Now I'm actually holding, as I twist, I'm holding with my left pinky finger, the side of my hand. I'm holding and I'm sliding, so that it doesn't untwist what I've twisted, and I'm sliding it up the lock as I keep twisting. Then I move my hand up a few inches or so, and then keep twisting the end all the way down to about 3/4 or so of the lock before I do my first ironing pass. So make sure that you have this twisted nice and firm, and secure it with your left hand as you're twisting so that it doesn't put too much tension on that needle. This is kind of what it looks like right before you iron. Now we're going to go ahead and lift up the edge of the towel and lay it over, so the closest edge of the towel, lay it over the lock all the way down. And then we're going to go ahead and get our iron. It'll look like this, so you can't see the lock anymore. It's just tucked inside that little towel. So we're going to go ahead and get our iron, and with the iron closest to my thumb where I'm holding it down there, again, keep the pressure on that end where you stopped twisting because you don't want it to come untwisted. Then you're going to steam. You see that steam popping up, so it's going to be quite a bit of steam that'll come up. You want to hold it for probably about 5 seconds or so. I don't know, 3 to 5 seconds on each little section. Kind of rock it back and forth. Just make sure that it really pushes that steam through the lock, because it's really a hot water set method. Just like you dip the ends of braids into hot water to seal the ends of the braids so they don't come undone, we're going to hot water set these locks just by pushing that water through the towel into the lock and steam it. So this is synthetic hair, and that's how we kind of perm, in a way, synthetic hair, like how you get it to hold in a permanent state, alter the state of the hair, the texture of the hair by the hot water. So you're going to then go ahead and just twist the end, the part there, that last little quarter section or so of the lock, and steam that. You want to steam that extra well. It's the most likely part of the lock to unravel just because it's at the end and has the most tension on it with the twisting. So this is kind of what that looks like from the top to the end, and we'll have steamed the whole lock at this point. We're going to go ahead and then take the little end out, take the pin or the needle out of the top of that lock, and then we are going to do the second part of the steaming, because you can see these hairs that are kind of sticking out from the lock, so it's a little bit too raggedy for me if you just do the one pass. Now you can just do the one pass and leave it, but that's going to cause the locks to catch on each other and to catch on sweaters and things like that, because they'll just kind of be more grippy because those little hairs are just kind of poking out. So what I do then is fold the end of the wet towel tightly over, kind of right up by the top loop, and I'm going to be twisting, as I showed you with my hand, towards myself as I steam. I'm twisting and pulling. So twist and pull. I'm pulling that lock through with the pressure of the iron down. You can see I lift up gently as I pull it through. This is going to just kind of shape your lock in a little smoother way. So again, if you want the raggedy locks with the hair sticking out and stuff, you want kind of more of the maybe a hippie look or something. I don't know exactly what that would be called, but if you want that look, then that's fine. Just go ahead and do the first steam pass. But if you want it a little bit smoother, a little bit cleaner and a little bit less likely to catch on things, then go ahead and do that second steam pass. Now this is how I kind of just trim off that little end part, and you can see there's kind of a little bend in the end of the lock. If there is a little bend or a little twist or something, you can always just unbend it or reshape it by passing it through the iron one more time at that end point. So here we go. This is a lock that is finished, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that steaming method one more time. So you're going to make sure your towel is wet, super important, not dripping and leaking all over things, but definitely more than just simply damp. And then we're going to also make sure that when we place the lock, we're going to pin it through not only the towel, but also through the ironing board cover or whatever the towel is laying on, so that it's secure, because you're going to be twisting against that tension of where it's pinned. So you need to secure it, or it's going to be impossible to get the twisting right. And again, you're going to hold it firmly with your left hand as you start twisting with your right hand, and you're pulling the hairs as you twist, you're kind of encouraging those hairs down the lock. So twisting, pulling the hair down, twisting, pulling the hair down, twisting, pulling the hair down, to just kind of get it to all conform to the shape that you want it to go in for these faux locks. So we're just, again, going to keep twisting all the way down to the end. And definitely have some kind of shows to watch, some music, something to drink. I don't know, whatever you like to do. This is a little bit of a mindless activity, slightly boring if you're doing it times 100, and it will take a minimum, absolute minimum of 80 locks to fill a head. 100 is more likely, depending somewhat on the the head size and the perimeter circumference of the person's head, how many locks. So even if your locks are smaller, you can even have up to like 120. So anywhere from 80 to 100 to 120. But this is a process, again, that's going to be time consuming, and you're going to want to have something to occupy your time, because it'll probably take a few days to finish a batch of locks if you're taking breaks and doing other things in between. So rocking that iron again back and forth, you want that generous amount of steam to be coming out as you iron that lock. It's going to get hot. You're going to have to cool yourself off from time to time, because yes, that steam does kind of go right towards your body. And I don't know, maybe you could look at it like it's a free facial, because you're getting a lot of steam up in your face. So I don't usually wear makeup when I do this process, because what's the point? So lots of steam, some heat, and once again, you're holding that down to make sure it does not untwist as you iron. Sorry, my phone fell down for a second there. And then you're going to iron all the way up the lock, making sure that it's staying twisted and secure underneath of that towel. And then you're going to do the second pass where we twist and pull through. So you're going to want to make sure you're always twisting in the same direction. Don't twist the opposite direction, or your work that you just did is going to basically come undone. So I'm just switching to the other side of the towel for this part, just so that you can see. You can of course use the same part of the towel, but again, make sure you keep spraying with a water bottle if the wetness is going away. You know, if it's starting to dry out and you're not getting a lot of steam, then re-wet your towel or respray the towel with the water bottle to make sure that it's staying wet. So twist and pull all the way through to the end of the lock, and you'll kind of see that this really cleans up the lock and gives you a nice finish. There is your lock. So I am at 70 of these, so I've got 30 more to go before I get to 100 and ship these out to the client. But this is what these locks look like from root to end. This is 2 of them. The ends, the middle, which is where that number 27 is, the more strawberry blonde color, and then the number 4 and 1B at the root. So let me know if you have any questions about this method. These are on the right, the backcombed locks that we're preparing for steaming, and on the left, the 2 that we have sealed for this tutorial process. Now over here, you can see all of these other ones that are hanging neatly on their little hooks. So they go from, again, the dark at the root all the way to the platinum blonde at the ends. Such a pretty style for summer. And this is a pack of locks that I actually did. These are the smaller ones that I did previously for the client, and I packed them up in little bags with a crochet hook with some little hair jewelry. And here is the client in her first installation of these locks, and then she actually reinstalled the locks, so this is the second installation. So So they last, you can leave them in for up to 3 months, and then you can use them again. So make sure that when you take them out, you take them out through the loop instead of cutting them off. And yeah, they're reusable, so they're durable, and you can probably get about anywhere from 2 to 3 uses of them, depending on how you maintain your hair. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments.